I'm I'm doing okay. It's so good to get to talk to you after, I don't know, I feel like 25 years or so.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's about how long I've been gone from that area. Well, from Orangefield, I mean, I left that area in 2000, and I've been here ever since, near San Antonio. So,
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, I think back on kind of my personal development and career progression, and I mean, I think band and your influence was such a instrumental part in that. No pun intended with the instrumental part, but
well,
uh,
no, no, well, I have, philosophy that, I didn't. It says, can't connect to your service, please check your network connection. Okay, so you still with me?
I'm still with you.
Still, I don't know if it's not going to let me do the video with my connection here or something. I don't know. But anyway, no, but I always had a philosophy of my job is not to make young people great musicians. My job is to make great young people through music. And that's what I always try to do because I realized most of these kids will come out of here and they're not going to be long time life musicians or teachers or players. They might still play, which is great. They'll play at church or they'll play community band. But I'm not going to make amazing musicians. Some of them will, but most won't. But if I can make them good people, okay, it's cool. And
Yeah,
hopefully, that's what I've been able.
yeah, absolutely. I think you're totally right on that. And even if they don't continue with music, you know, they may be more likely to support a child to go into music, or
Oh
have
yeah.
greater participation, or appreciation of what's involved in it.
Hopefully they enjoy it. Going through you go through school and enjoy the program. It's not like you don't remember what a teacher said, but you remember how they made you feel. And that really is, boy, I liked them. I don't know why, or I think they were good. I'm not sure why, but it kind of works out that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish
And
I could work
yeah,
because it kind of did. I mean, I got to the phone number thing, which I did, and it typed in all the numbers for me. So, well, anyway, what do we hear about anyway?
well, several reasons. One is it's just good to catch up with you. Um,
Yeah.
I started a project back in December to go and interview a person a day till the end of 2024. And the ironic part is I started the project because I work from home before everybody else did, and I would go for maybe a week or two without actually seeing anybody other than family. So I needed something to kind of push me to get out of the house, excuse to talk to people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ironic, since March, everybody's at home and we're all locked in. But um, so I'm kind of passionate about space exploration. I'm really excited about the idea of humanity branching out beyond Earth. And there was a NASA administrator that was, or assistant administrator that was counting down the days to the end of 2024, which is when we currently have targeted to put people back on the moon. And it just occurred to me that that'd be a good framework to kind of work within. But because of the whole COVID thing, I've now been reaching out to, uh, you know, people that I've lost touch with, and it's been really, really neat.
Well, that's cool. Well, yeah, I retired just in time. I retired at the end of 2019, and then all this stuff hit in 2020, and I can't imagine teaching with the way they're doing things right now. It's just, but it was. I had a guy I used to work for. And I asked him. I said he retired 8 years before I did, and I said, "When do you know?" He says, "Oh, you'll know." And really, what did it? We took a trip to Disney World my last year, and I said, "I can't do this anymore." I mean, we had a big band. Honda was about 600 students in the high school. That's the total enrollment. And we had 180 in band when I left.
That
And
is,
so it was huge. And I got tired, and I figured I had enough in retirement that I could retire. And I divorced and remarried. And the lady I'm married to now, she's a nurse practitioner. We've been married, it'll be 9 years in December. But anyway, yeah, she's great. But I figured out we use her insurance, and I work at the church. I do the choir at a church here in town. I make $100 less a month in retirement than I did when I was working 50 hours a week.
wow, that's amazing.
So I thought, yeah, I can do this. And of course, then the honey-do list got pretty long pretty fast. I mean, the first thing was, paint the house. Okay. And I'm still not done. But paint the whole inside of the house. And I built a deck. And we put a garage in. But my golf game's gotten better. So that's kind of what I do. And the kids are all out of the house because, I had my two. She had three that were younger than mine. And they all graduated in 2019. We had two twin boys and a girl that she actually skipped 8th grade. She's really smart. So they all graduated together. And two of those are in the Army right now. The other is an engineering. I think he's going to civil engineering. He's in college. And then my two older ones, Bethany and Zach. Bethany works at a medical clinic in Austin, and Zach is working for customer service for Goldman Sachs in San Antonio. But we're finally, as of last week, there's no one here except me and my wife. And anyway, it's all good here. I'm still writing, and writing a lot and getting some stuff played and got my business going. So it's good. Anyway, enough about me.
Well, I do have a question regarding the family bit. My oldest son is 21, and he's a senior in college. He's back home doing remote school. And then my youngest, he is a senior in high school, and he'll be going off to college next year. So I think after next year, both of them will be away from home. And I mean, they've been such a central part of my life for the past, 20 years.
Yeah.
What is it like after they leave?
It's different. Ours, I love my kids more than anything. Obviously, if you're any kind of parent, you would. And they screw up and they do good, and sometimes they don't. But when they leave, you're like, oh, this will be great, man. I can do this and that, and everything's cool. But then you go, damn, I miss them. you miss having the conversation and then seeing them because you love your kids that much. And like I say, my oldest son, Zach, he was on his own for a while, and he got a little bit of financial trouble. So we let him come stay with us for he moved in right at the end of May, and he just left last week. Let him get his bills caught up, and he got him a new apartment. And so he's, back doing his thing. And now it's just me and Liz. But it's different because you don't worry about locking doors. You don't worry about where you go and do. You can just go. But I still talk to all my kids all the time. There's 5 of them. And even the ones that were Liz's kids we got very close, in the last 10 years. And all good kids. But it's just different. Just different. If you're still working, see, I'm not working now. So it's really, if I want to go play golf, I go play golf. If I want to run around the house in my underwear, I do so. Because there's no one here. It's relaxing, but it can get a little lonely, sure. Because I like having my kids around. I mean, and I'm not teaching.
Well, and I was just thinking. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking the transition for you would probably be a lot bigger than for a lot of other people. I mean, like me, I'm in front of my computer all day. I'm interacting with people virtually. I really don't have much of a social interaction with people. But I mean, so for me going from that to like home life, I can see as being not that big of a transition. But in your case, where
Well,
you're used to having like hundreds of kids that you're interacting with all the time, I mean, uh,
well, and I miss teaching. I miss the kids because I felt like I was making a difference. And you know, they try to the school try to tell you about don't talk politics, don't talk church. Okay, well, I never talked politics at school, but I did talk church in a roundabout way. It was my opportunity to fish. You know what I'm talking about, and help kids on the right path because they knew I was a good Christian. They knew I walked the walk, and I brag about it. But I'd tell them, say, look, you do what you want to do. I'm just saying this works for me. And that was cool to be able to do that. And at a small town, you can get away with it. Cities, you can't do that. They'll fire you. But if I can help some of these kids be better, and you know, when I go to the church, but it's all elderly people. Of course, I'm in that bunch now. I mean, I'm 61 now, and these people are all in their 70s and 80s. Most of the people that are in my choir, and but they're great people. And like, I don't have a friend here. I've been here 20 years. I don't have somebody that I can just call and say, hey, man, we'll go hang out. Because my friends are either in Southeast Texas or in Dallas or Houston. I've got family nearby. My stepdad lives in Lakey, about an hour away. And got a sister and brother-in-law live right next door to him. And another sister lives just north of San Antonio, but I rarely see them. And so, yeah, and my wife's always going, are you okay? Are you happy? I said, I'm fine. Because, you know, I can sit here, I can work on music. I've got 10 acres out here, so I've got yard to tend to regularly. I play golf once a week with a group called the Old Dogs, and I'm the youngest in the group at 60, you know. But they're great, and a bunch of nice guys. We play golf once a week. So you just find things to stay busy. And you find projects. I think I'm going to start doing some woodworking again. I've got me a shop out in my garage and just got to buy some more tools. But then, yeah, it's just different, and it's going to change, I'm sure. You know, when kids get married, start having kids, they're going to bring little ones over, and we'll be all excited, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just different. And you just have the two boys, or?
yeah, just the two boys, and that was enough for me. Of course, my wife was staying with them, leaving. Maybe we should have another one, and I'm like thinking, I'm not ready to start back at zero.
No. Trust me. I had friends say, you married somebody that had 3 little kids? Because when me and Liz married, when we first met, the boys were like in 4th grade, and my daughter Cadence was in 3rd grade. So I was almost starting over. I mean, no babies, but you know, I knew, well, here's another 10 years with kids in the house, which, okay, they were good kids, you know, and they all of them turned out to be great young people. But no, starting over, no, I don't want a foster kid. I don't want a baby. No, sorry. Now your wife, where's she from originally?
Well,
I've seen pictures.
she is Indian, but she was born in Bahrain.
Monterrey, Mexico?
No, Bahrain, over there in the Middle
Bahrain.
East. Yeah.
Yes, I know where Bahrain. I just didn't understand what you said. Monterey, really? Yeah, Bahrain. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, cool. I mean, I'm sorry, but you did pretty. I mean, you did good. Did real good.
Yeah, thanks.
So,
yeah, it's been fun. I'd love to make it out there to the Hondo sometime and see you in person.
hang on just a second. We have 3 cats, and they're hungry, so they're banging on the window. I'm like, stop it! I'll feed you eventually. No, I like it out here. You know, we're in the country, and the neighbors are real good, and we have a nice big house. You know, my first wife, we moved here to Hondo and had been here about a year, and then she got on the internet and found somebody she liked better, and I got traded in for a newer model, but that's okay.
That's painful.
It was hard. It was really hard because that was supposed to have been everybody thought, oh yeah, they're going to stay together, and it didn't go well for her. I mean, she's still with the guy, but anyway, that's not important. But yeah, my wife Liz is she's younger than me by a good bit, but we had very similar upbringing. I mean, kind of very humble, poor. She's from Kansas, and she was married before, and it was a really, she was only married a couple of years, and it was really bad. The guy was very abusive. I mean, my marriage was fine, and then we just met at. She was working at helping the severely handicapped children, cerebral palsy, things like that, and she was working at the school helping a kid that went to school there. And then she was going to my church. And then we got to talking at church. And then the first time she told me how old she was, I went, oh, nope, not doing this. I mean, it's 24 years difference that she's younger than me. And, but we just get along great. I mean, very similar interests. She was a musician, and she's very, very, a lot smarter than I am. And I'm not dumb, but she's always coming talking about work. I'm going, what are you talking about? Just because she works with people that go to people's houses. She does primary care at people's homes for people that can't get out and crippled, bedbound, et cetera. And most of the people she works with are like in between hospice and hospital. So they're almost dead because they're really that sick. But that's who she works with. And but it pays her well, and it's interesting. I let her come home and complain every day, and then she gets a glass of wine, and everything's all good.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that's very wearing. Knowing that the people you're taking care of and expending all this emotional energy into are probably aren't going to get better. It's like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, most of them are within a year of dying. I mean, man, they come up. God, some stuff she tells me, like, this one's got this and this and this and this. What? How are they still alive? And got some that they're still smoking weed. Got one guy that drinks like 24 16-ounce beers a day. So how does he? And he's like 600 pounds.
It reminds me of a joke. It reminds me of a joke. Guy goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, how can I live longer?" And the doctor says, "Well, do you smoke?" And he's like, "No, don't smoke." "Do you drink?" "No, I don't drink." Do you live a wild life?" He's like, "No, I'm a homebody." And it goes through a list of a lot of other things. And the doctor scratches his head and says, "So why do you want to live so long?"
Yeah, I want to live longer. You're not going to have any fun. I always believed everything in moderation, I mean, that's what they tell us. Just, you'll be fine, everything in moderation. And so, okay, cool. So that's what we try to do. We like a little bit of wine here and there, and we eat right, and we just go about our business, go to church every Sunday, and do the thing. So it's all good. And okay, well, what now? So, did you still play your horn at all, or did that go away when high school ended?
I did do it for a little while in college. I still have my trombone, but I I still struggle to produce a characteristic trombone sound. So
Well, yeah.
I only bring it out whenever I really need to get on the nerves of everybody. So
Yeah. Oh, and see, I still play. I play with an orchestra here, a community orchestra that's really good. And the conductor called me about a month ago, and I just finished my 15th symphony for orchestra. And he said, I let him hear it. He said, "I love it. I want to play it. Give me the parts." So I perform that in February, hopefully. I just believe as soon as the election's over, everything's going to change one way or the other. good or bad. It's just everything's gonna get either really good or really bad. I don't know. I did my voting yesterday. I got all got to take care of. But anyway, but getting to get something performed again is always nice. And anyway, okay. So what are your questions about the space race?
Yeah, I guess first off, did you know we were planning to send people back to the moon in 2024?
I had heard a little blurb about it. I haven't really read much about it, but just heard about it. Seeing what you may not know about me, my mom worked at NASA during the Apollo time down in Friendswood, and but I mean, she wasn't a scientist; she was support staff. She worked at the cafeteria. But I got to go down there with her and go behind the scenes when they were doing it. I guess it was probably must have been about Apollo 14, and got to sit inside one of the capsules, the Apollo capsules. I mean, crawl in there, and I was like a sixth grader, maybe seventh grade, I don't know. And they were just working on the moon rover at the time. And all they had was this thing with wheels and plywood. That's all it was at the time. And so I was really excited about it back then, and the whole Apollo thing and going to the moon. And, I got to see him land. And you know what Buzz Aldrin was going to say when he first stepped on the moon?
No, I don't.
He wrote down, he said, I didn't, but I was going to say, as soon as he hit the moon dust, he says, "Oh man, I got moon dust all over my new boots."
Ah,
That's what I was going to say. After Neil Armstrong's, one small step thing. Oh man.
oh dang, I need new moon boots. Yeah.
And my wife has actually met Jim Lovell, and because she worked with his son, I think, or grandson, maybe grandson, worked out here in Uvalde, near us. And I said the son was kind of a jerk, but said Jim Lovell was a wonderful person. I'm not sure when or where she met him, but said she had met him and thought it was cool. But see, my wife, she's one of these. She's kind of in the back of her mind. She thinks we never went. She won't just out and say it, but she says it would be so easy to fake it. I said, dude, really? No, we went. Trust me. It wasn't just to cripple the Russians. We actually did this. And anyway, that's my background on NASA.
Yeah.
And but I did know. So your next question now.
Yeah, it was like just doing a little math. I think you were about 10 years old whenever Neil and Buzz landed on the moon. And I was
I just turned 11.
Turned 11. Aside from your visits to NASA with your mom, I was wondering what kind of impact, if any, that had on you.
Well, at the time, I was really pushing, and I thought, man, this is great stuff. And at the time, because I'm going to change my attitude in a minute, but anyway, not too bad. And then and I kept up with I watched all the missions that they were putting on, and then when the shuttles, the Skylab, Skylab fell out of the sky when. And then the shuttle missions were always very exciting to watch. And I remember when the Challenger happened, and I was in a electronics store in Beaumont, and a friend of mine, Dane Smalley, was, I think, maybe working there. I just happened to see him in there. And then we looked at the TV and it was on. And I went, "What's this?" And they said, "It's the Challenger." I said, "This is happening. This just happened." And we were all freaked out, because it was just so horrible. And, but I've followed it, and I've always been big into, sci-fi and all that and the technology. Did it make me any better, worse, different? No, I was just a kid, and I thought it was cool. It didn't really make my life any different. I mean, I didn't do anything different that I wouldn't have done because of it. So.
Yeah, what do you think about us returning back to the moon? Do you think it's a good thing, or the timing's wrong, or why are we wasting our time?
Well, yeah, yes. My question is that I haven't had answers. Why? Well, what is the purpose? I mean, what do we hope as a humanity to achieve and to, what are we going to get out of this? Because no one's really answered me that question.
Well, I think depending upon who you ask, you'll get a whole bunch of different answers, but I could give you some that make sense to me.
Okay, good.
So, I mean, one of them is kind of like a circular argument. You know, in these permanently shadowed craters on the moon, over the past billions of years, comets have impacted the moon, and some of those water molecules have made it into these permanently shadowed craters. And there's actually, we think like billions of gallons of water that's frozen in these permanently shadowed craters that could be used for, oxygen and fuel for uh, your 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 rockets and lots of other things. So it's like a strategic resource that it looks like for example, China is planning to definitely develop a presence on the moon. And so one thought is that if we want to make sure that we still have a stake in the future of space exploration, we should go ahead and have a presence there as well, just so that we don't sort of lose our ability to participate. But that's sort of a poor argument, because that is only that I mean that's only I mean it's like you should go to the moon because we should go to space so that we could go to space. So if you already don't think it's
Yeah.
worthwhile going to space, why make it easier? But there's some other reasons as well. um, the Earth is constantly being impacted by meteors. Every hour of every day there are meteors entering the Earth's atmosphere,
Sure.
and most of them burn up in the atmosphere. Most of them go unnoticed. The ones that do make it through the atmosphere, most of them end up in the ocean. They're of no big consequence. But the thing is, looking at the Earth, you're not really able to understand, what's the distribution in size and frequency and what have you. But the neat thing about the moon is the moon's been traveling in the same vicinity as the Earth, and it doesn't have an atmosphere, and it doesn't have weather. So it provides like this really wonderful record of what have been the historical bombardments of the Earth region. So I think you could learn a lot about that. There may be some debris that's in a really long orbit that maybe intersects the Earth, every 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 years, which the moon could provide some insight into. So there's that. Also, there's a lot of rare earth metals on Earth that are in like Africa and China, and like platinum and other things. The moon might be actually a very um, might have actually a lot of this material, because those things come from meteors. Um, Um, so that's sort of the argument. There's one other thing. The sun produces enormous amount of energy, but only 1/700 billionth of that energy actually hits the Earth, because most of it's lost, going out in other directions of space. So, if you could create like space-based solar platforms to capture some more of that energy, you could actually make energy cheap, and maybe you could use the moon resources to build and launch those solar panels. So that's sort of the framework if we're looking for some um, uh, kind of pseudo practical explanations.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And just always concerned about the cost effectiveness of it, because space travel has never been very cost effective, other than knowledge. I mean, that's the one thing that we've been able to achieve is, a vast better understanding of what's out there. I'm one of these people that I just think physically and the physics of the matter. Space travel is okay, but the problem is I just don't think we're ever going to get very far. Just because physically, until, you see all the sci-fi shows and you got a crow freeze people, but no one's been able to make that work. And even getting just to Mars, that's, what's that, a 8 month trip for a person. Then you got to try to get back. And why even fool with that? Now, the moon thing, I can understand, talking about resources and that's a big if on the water thing. And I understand you'll take water split and hydrogen and oxygen, sure. And if there was a way to have some sort of base and you could refine that and keep it going, I understand that. I would support going that direction. But just to go and say, oh, we beat China there, whoops, I don't think that's even politically, big deal. But if we're looking more down the road, yeah. And I think it's a plausible activity, albeit very expensive, obviously. And my big worry here on the other side of the coin is one day we're going to run out of food. It's a given. I don't know when, unless something is done. I mean, we've got all these oceans. Why can't we figure out a way to focus on the oceans for food or harvesting or something? I mean, they're already done so much on regular, land as far as food and genetics and things and making the food better. But I don't know, man. We'll always have water. It's just making it drinkable. But I get worried about that. And sometimes I think more resources should be heading in that direction to help us survive as people, as humanity. But I think we need the knowledge also. I think it needs both. Does that answer your question okay?
Oh, absolutely. But it's really funny. One thing that's always kind of drove me up the wall about our food thoughts is the way that we produce our food fundamentally hasn't changed in like tens of thousands of years.
Right.
We create other life in order to decompose it into the materials that we need in order to digest to keep us alive. Why are we going through such a long process to essentially get certain chemicals into our body that could probably be produced directly?
Well, yeah, like you say, things hadn't changed. Some creatures of habit.
We are.
That's what I'm saying. If there's more research going into these different direction, and they tried to make meat from scratch, like beef, and then they made it. It was out in Japan. But the thing about it is, it was gooey. It was so soft, it was just the texture was bleh, because beef is muscle, and muscle has to be built. That's what gives it its texture. Well, they can make it in a lab, but they can't exercise it to get the texture that we're used to. I just don't want to fall into a Soylent Green situation, That would not be fun.
I know. Soylent Green, it's made out of people.
Do you know what year that was set? Soylent Green?
I don't.
2021 is when it was set.
Oh my gosh. After this year, it seems way more plausible, doesn't it?
You just don't know. I just don't know. But I thought that was interesting. And I read the book and then saw the movie. The book's called Make Room, Make Room. And then they came with Soylent Green, but it's not a great movie, but it's a great story.
Well,
and scary.
And in terms of running out of food, what do you think is the driver for that? Is it population increase, or is it our inability to grow food?
It's just population. I mean, people are living longer due to advances in medicine and People are, I don't know if they're eating better, but people are just living longer. I mean, think about it. In 1900, the average age in America for a man was 57. That was the average age of death. Now, you had to figure into that average included a lot of children died at childbirth or right after birth because of lack of vaccines, medicine. A lot of women died during childbirth back then. So you had a lot of people die very young, which kind of made it kind of skews the numbers. But now I think the average is like 78 or 80. For is the average, and then there's just so many people just having children. I mean, every generation is, I mean, when I was in high school, the population of the United States was 220 million. Now it's 330 million. So in 40 years, the population has grown, 30% more. Is that right? More than that. Well, it's grown by 110 million people just in the United States over a 40-year period. And I really think that's the big problem. And then when you start having more people, like around San Antonio, it's getting ridiculous. It's getting huge. They're building neighborhoods everywhere and every year. In the last 20 years, San Antonio has grown by like 50, 60,000 people, maybe 100,000 people in 20 years. And so when they buy up farmland to build houses, there's less room to grow stuff. And farmers, well, what's going to happen? Food's going to get very, very expensive because it's going to be harder to find and it's just going to be different. But I think it's a combination of population and places to grow food. And farmers they can't make any money and they just quit doing it. Yeah, watch it. Interstellar. Yeah, that movie. That movie kind of scares me. Because, what if? What if something happens and just something kills all the crops?
Well,
we don't know.
And you kind of touch on what I think is an awareness education problem. Using farmland to build houses. I think for the vast majority of people born in the past 20, 30 years, their idea of food production is some magical process that puts it on grocery store shelves. Like they probably have no awareness of anything before that.
Yeah, I agree with that. They say, why don't you just go to the store and get it like everyone else? Why do you have to hunt animals? Why do you have to, kill a cow? Just go to the store. Where do you think they come from? And you're right. And that's a little scary that many people really don't understand the whole process. I mean, I've got friends out here that are farmers. And man, the stories they tell is like, wow, really? And it's hard work. And the government is helping a lot. There's a lot of subsidies and, ag exemptions for taxes and stuff, and they're still just getting by. And, one drought, one herd of locusts, one bad hailstorm, and you could be sunk for the year. The whole crop could be gone. And they live with that every single day. Luckily, I don't have to live with it, but we might one day.
Yeah.
Cats keep looking at me. They're just staring at me like, beat us. No. I mean, it's only, 7:30 and almost 8. Sometimes I go till 10 and finally give them some food. But they're outside cats. We have no rats or mice, and they always take care of our snakes.
That is
somehow. We don't have dogs. I don't like dogs, but too high maintenance. Cats are easy, especially outside. Okay, getting off the subject here. I'm bad about that.
Oh, no worries. It's all about life and kind of our current condition. So, I mean, what do you think about this idea of even increasing life expectancy even further? Obviously, the change in death rate is one of the big drivers in our increase in population.
Yeah.
Are we sort of, um, I mean, I don't want to die. I would like to live forever. My oldest son, he's really into longevity research, and I
No.
fully support his efforts. I hope he's successful soon. But at the
Yeah.
same token, if we increase the population so much, uh, you know, if we all die, what's the point in a few of us living longer?
Well, yeah, and yeah, that's a good analogy. A little odd, but okay. And the other thing about okay, and where is population happening mostly? You can say okay, Africa. There's a lot of people born, but a lot of people die in Africa. And then you look at India and China, and just so many people. And have you been to India?
I have 3 times.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was quite an eye opener.
I've also been to Tokyo, and the interesting thing about Tokyo versus Mumbai is they have about the same number of people, but the quality of life is completely different, just in terms
Oh,
of.
I'm sure.
Uh,
I have a brother-in-law, and he's a major in the Marines, and he just got stationed in Okinawa. And he said, "Man, the culture is so different." They said, "If you take your trash out, if it's not in a certain way, I mean, everything pulled apart, everything recycled, they'll just leave it there. They won't pick it up." Said you have to be. I mean, if you've got a box of tissue that's got the plastic wrap around it, you got to take the plastic off it and separate the plastic from the paper. Things like that. So, but they have to because it's so crowded. There's so many people. If they just let everybody go willy-nilly on that sort of thing, it'd be just a big dump heap. The whole thing would. And my daughter, she's been to Japan and she loved it. She said that's so pretty and so clean, and said, yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. But yeah, it is quite, like I say, it's a whole different way of life. I'm sure. I've never been to either one, but I imagine, it's quite different. But back to longevity. My grandmother lived to be 105, and when she was like 92, we have 93. We had a birthday party for her, and she says, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. And then she lived to be 105. And it wasn't until about the last 6 months that she was still pretty good, but that's when she kind of didn't recognize people the last 6 months. And my aunt, her daughter was with her when she died. She said, I was sitting there and she'd fallen asleep, and she said, I was watching her and she just stopped breathing. Very, very calm, and I think it was a kidney failure or something, and just passed away. But I don't know. I think everybody would like to say they would like to live old as long as they're healthy. Nobody wants to live sick for 20 years, 30 years, but they do. People on dialysis. I mean, once you on dialysis, you're stuck with that crap every day for the rest of your life. And I don't know, is that a very fulfilling life? I know when it's my time, it's my time. Cool. I'm good with it. I've made my peace with God. I'm fine, and when I go, I go. Whoopie-doo. But I think younger people are more in the mindset of, my son, my oldest, he's like, I probably won't live past 50. I said, dude, what's wrong with you? Why not? He said, I don't know. He's a little weird. And everybody else, wants to be old and have grandkids. And I just hope when I die, I'm remembered that I did something while I was here. That's the sad thing. Like people that live to be 100 are usually not known for anything else except being 100. Have you noticed that? Edith Miller over here lived to be 102. What'd she do? Nothing. Sat there at her house, knitted for 100 years, didn't do a damn thing for anybody else. You know, because it's like they forget.
Well, I think that probably goes to the majority of people aren't remembered for anything. It's just
Well,
these,
yeah.
yeah.
So, you see, old buddy of mine, Mike Westbrook, he was a band director, died of the COVID. He was like the first one in East Texas. It was back in April, and then he was overweight, and it got his heart. Just he got sick on a Sunday, and by the next Saturday he was gone.
Wow.
And but no one ever knew. But he was a great guy, and we had nice ceremonies, and I wrote a piece for him that we performed at his funeral service, and but well known, well liked, and but that's like I say, not everybody. Sometimes you have people that just they're not ever known for anything. They just go through life, working in jobs they don't like and complaining all the time. And I had a job I loved. I mean, I looked forward to going to work every single day. Just really, and I got tired after 38 years. I figured, well, okay, that's enough. I've done the job.
Yeah, why do you think that happens? Why are we so willing to throw away our lives into things that don't provide us fulfillment, don't have an impact? What's missing for the most people?
Man, that's a really good question. I think people make bad decisions when they're young, and I think our culture. But it's not just recently. This has been going on. There's always been people that didn't like their jobs. But I think more so, our younger people have gotten more and more lazy, and computers and phones have made them very complacent, to where they don't want to get out and really work to earn a living. My oldest son, he's terrible about this. He doesn't want to work outside ever. He didn't want any jobs outside. I said, dude, man, you can make some good money going to welding or air conditioning, being an electrician. You make a lot of money doing that, because he's not one of these guys that's going to go to college and get a degree in engineering. He's not going to do anything like that. He's not dumb. He's just like me. He can't do math. And, but I think a lot of that is just that whole me generation. And I blame it on Dr. Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Mm-mm.
He wrote a book, Looking Out for Number One. And it was all about make yourself important above all else. And that was big in the 80s. And then so we raised a generation of selfish parents that had kids, and then they got to where, well, you can't spank the kid, you can't discipline them. Now those kids have kids. And that's who we're dealing with now. In that age group. And it just, people have gotten lazy, and they're just complaining about not having what they thought should have just been given to them, instead of going out and actually seizing opportunities and working and, making the best of what you're doing. I mean, I did it. I was talking about this, white privilege. I never got any of that. I worked my whole way through college, paid for all of it, got my bachelor's and my master's, paid for it. Bought everything I ever had, but I was careful about it, and I worked hard, and I went to work every day. And some people just don't want to do that. And psychologically, I don't have an answer. I think it's culture, just what's expected.
Yeah. So I mean, that sense of entitlement of it should just, it should just be given to me. Over the course of your 38 years of dealing with these future human people, I was wondering if you saw like some trends or directions that you mentioned just now that you felt like it was getting worse. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, I kind of lived in a bubble because I taught band. Band kids are different. And you probably figured that out just going through school. Band kids, by and large, they're nicer kids. They're more respectful to elders. They seem to enjoy life more and have fun doing what they're doing. And maybe band, I always know, do good kids take band, or do band make kids good, you know? And hopefully it makes them better than what they were. And, but as far as trends, what I saw over the years, kids having less fear and less respect for older people, because they see it on TV and movies, and that's just the way it is. And then parents, and if it's a cycle, then if the parents don't make the kids respect them, then the kids aren't going to respect anybody else or themselves. They're just going to do whatever they want. And that's what you're seeing in the news now. You know, all these Antifa kids, those are a bunch of kids. These are where kids 16 to 20 years old, most of it. They don't know any better. No one's ever told them, no, that's bad. Stop it. They just said, oh, I'm just expressing myself. No, you're being an asshole. I'm sorry. You can't be doing that. And but I think that's just a lot of it. The culture, the media has made it okay to believe that us old people don't know anything. You know, I mean, they call us, you know, okay, boomer, you know, that whole thing. I'm the last of the boomers, you know, and like, yeah, I know a lot more than you do. Been there, done that. So you need to listen to us because you're messing things up. And they don't want to listen. And when everybody just tells them, oh, it's okay to be this way. I think that's just the respect has really gone down, and the kids have gotten more entitled. They think, especially the more well-to-do kids. See, when I taught the last 19 years, I taught here in Hondo, you know, we got 70% of the school district on free or reduced lunch. It's a poor community. And the kids I had the most trouble with were the rich kids. The few that we had that had money, those were the ones that usually didn't stay in band. And they would say, oh, band, that's a Mexican thing. That was their words. And my band, you know, 180 kids, maybe out of that I had 25 non-Hispanic kids. Maybe. Everybody else was Hispanic. And it was wonderful. I loved it. And then you got these rich, spoiled brats that, you know, cheat on their work, and they have the white girl club. They even call them that. My daughter, it's of course white. She says, "Oh yeah, the white girls." I mean, she even called them that. And but it's spreading. I think we're slowly losing the middle class, and that's just the way it is, you know. Or anything we do about it or not. So.
Well, I
Your
mean,
turn.
it seems like those trends are very powerful. I don't see anything to cause them to change directly, and it seems like they inevitably will lead to decay and downfall of the society that we have. I mean, and
Unfortunately, yeah.
like you were pointing out, you know, the poorer people appreciate the opportunity and are seizing it. And I think what you really see is people from like Latin America and Africa and Asia coming to like the US and to Europe and to Japan, and you know, they appreciate the opportunities that they have and seem to,
Yeah.
you know, they don't have this entitlement thought. So it seems like, you know, it's the continuous cycle of rise, decay, and decline, and then kind of things changing. I can imagine, you know, people from like Christopher Columbus's era, when Spain was so powerful, imagining that English would be a popular language around the world.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? And it's like one of the hardest languages to learn if you don't grow up with it, because it's very difficult. And you know, rise and fall of Western civilization. I think it's over the last 500 years has gotten better. Well, maybe it's just gotten different, and we've accepted our conveniences and technology. has made life easier. You think of, okay, put this in mind, Americans versus Japanese. Japanese are really, really good at copying things, but they're not very creative. Americans, at one point, up until about the mid 80s, were very creative. And you think about it, everything that's been invented, or most everything that's been invented, is to make life easier. The remote control for a TV, the microwave oven, cell phones, or for entertainment purposes. Now, a lot of things were in the medical field, but you think about it, cars. They invented cars to get around quicker, easier, instead of our world. That's what people invent, things that make life easier and also makes life lazier. And so I just think as a society, we have just become complacent at this point. We're not trying to do anything new now. I mean, what in the last 20 years, 25 years, has there been really any really big invention? I mean, just like, wow, man, look at that. Like when the microwave came out, that was huge. What has come along?
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, I'm still amazed I'm taking clothes from the washer and putting them in the dryer. That seems like a completely unnecessary step in the whole clothes cleaning process.
Yeah, I think you just make it in one machine. That's a good idea. Somebody needs to do that.
Absolutely. But, I think we've seen some improvements in terms of like genetic technology, like CRISPR, the ability to actually edit the genes in a living cell. I think that's kind of
just a little bit. The whole DNA messing around, that bothers. I see it when there's a real problem they're going to fix, but to change it just to change it, that kind of bothers me. Just say, we did it, we made, then we're back to the Aryans. I mean, it's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, it's also something that's really difficult to control. Even if, like the U.S., for example, try to control it, I don't think China or Korea or Europe would necessarily go along with it. It's kind of
right.
And the technology is so ubiquitous. I mean, you and I could probably set up a laboratory that could do significant research in this area without ever coming to light by anybody, and we would be able to do whatever we want. It's like.
Oh, did you see where some new inventions where these guys have created an actual working retractable lightsaber?
No.
I saw it yesterday. It's amazing. This is a real deal, and it looks very steampunk. Man, that's kind of cool. But this thing, it's not really like a lightsaber. They call it something else, but it looks like it. It uses propane and oxygen, and a special nozzle. And so when this thing, and it's all computerized, got this circuitry in it, and when you turn it on, it shoots a beam, a torch out of this thing, the length of a lightsaber. You can even put it in different colors, adding the right chemicals. It's 4,000 degrees. And when you turn it off, it just goes back down into the nozzle. You just click it on and it comes out of the nozzle at just that length. They held up like a, 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch steel plate and just cut right through it like it was butter.
That is
I don't want this near me. It's scary. I mean, it would cut through a person easily.
And it's all contained in the handle of the lightsaber?
You have to have a backpack with it to hold the tank with the gas and some of the circuitry and stuff. But yeah, and it's not a real big backpack, but it's more like, looks like a flamethrower kind of setup. But the handle looks like, a lightsaber. It's about the right size. You just click a button and that sucker comes out. And like, whoa. And these same people even did, the Iron Man thing with the things in his hand.
Uh-huh.
They built one of those that works. And these are young guys, like their 20s, early 30s. They got a lab somewhere in America, and they just make these things. Like, man, it's impressive.
I know, on one hand, you see things like that and you're like, wow, we still have it. We're still like being inventive and intuitive. I mean, and ingenuitive. But on the other hand, you see lots of people just kind of, I guess you would call them like sheeple, people acting like sheep.
Lots of that.
Yeah.
And I quit listening to the radio in 1984. Any new music. After Michael Jackson's Thriller, it just wasn't much new music came out. I mean, there was some, and I kept up with some of it, and then nowadays, I mean, when hip hop came in, man, talk about the day the music died.
I know. I listen to what's on the radio now, and I just see kids like playing it, and I'm just like, what do you see in that music? And I see no redeeming value in it at all.
Yeah, it's horrible, and it's vulgar. And I mean, yeah, the 60s and 70s had songs that were suggestive, but they didn't just say it. I mean, when they're dropping the F-bomb left and right on these things, I don't listen to it, but I know it happens. And these kids just listen to it and go, yeah, that's great stuff. What? No. This is wrong, and it goes off as music, but yeah, it's bad. So I still listen to stuff in the 60s and 70s. I'm happy with it.
It'd be interesting to do some type of technical analysis of music over the decades on the radio to look at things like tonal ranges, the number of patterns that are used, and kind of create some type of technical measure of sophistication.
Okay, almost all the songs that make the top, pops have the same 4 chords in them. And a lot of times in the same order. Somebody did a study, said, look, this is how many songs use these chords, and thousands of them. And these songs here are exact same progression, just different words and melody. And but they say I think the problem is people don't record like they used to. They sit down in an apartment with a laptop and plug into it and just start putting stuff in. Nobody can sing anymore. There's no good singers, or very few, and nobody plays instruments anymore. Most of it's gone electronic, except, you got your heavy metal guys, they all play, but you can't understand anything they're saying. And then all that, the new pop stuff is just, it's a singer with everything electronic behind it. So everything's so processed, there's no life to it. That's what bothers me. I can go back and listen to Led Zeppelin and say, yeah, John Bonham is an amazing drummer, but he doesn't keep real good time. That's what makes it real. He speeds up, slows down, but that's what gives it the feel and make you go, yeah, And I like to hear a mistake here and there. Horn bands, there's always somebody who makes a little squirt in there, and they, oh man, oh yeah, he did that live. And real musicians are playing it, but everything's so sterile now. And that's been the last 20 years. It's been like that. And that's why I don't like the new music. It's just not the same. I don't know if you saw the joke about, you know who Taylor Swift is.
Yep.
And you know who, the girl that sang in Fleetwood Mac. I can't remember her name now.
I can't either.
Stevie Nicks is her name. So they compared the two. So Taylor Swift, all her songs are about men she doesn't like. Stevie Nicks wrote songs about her ex and made him play the songs in her band. I mean, there were ugly songs about Lindsey Buckingham. And so she said, "No, we're gonna play this. Good songs, man. That's just mean." Oh, it's just they're so different. Oh well, what else you got? Because I got some business I really have to tend to.
Oh, sure.
And
Just one last question. If it was
yeah,
safe and affordable, would you have any interest in going into space yourself?
oh, you bet. I think it'd be cool.
Well, that's awesome. Well,
Even
Leon,
if it's not completely safe, I figure, hey, if I'm gonna go, what a way to go.
oh, exactly. Exactly. And as the population gets older and people get sort of bored, maybe that's
Yeah,
the great.
yeah. Just when we get out there, let me look around, then just shoot me out into space. It'll be instant death, especially if you're old. I'll burn up in the atmosphere, but I'll already be dead before that happens. So no remains. So you get cremation cheap.
Yeah, and a large viewing audience too. It's like, look at that
Oh,
here.
oh, I saw. Speaking of that, I saw a hearse pulling a wood chipper, a tree limb chipper, and the thing says, evidently there's a third option.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, are you kidding me?
That's like that movie Fargo. I think they had a person. I guess it's been in lots of movies with people getting wood chipped.
I saw an episode of Bones where some guy got chopped up, frozen, then thrown in the wood chipper.
Oh my gosh.
They were trying to hide the evidence, I guess. They found it anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences between a body and a tree limb.
No, yeah, that's the same. Just it'll tear right. The big ones will tear right through it. So, well, Nathan, man, it's been great talking to you. And I mean, we're on Facebook together, so keep in touch. And if you ever want to come out, I mean, we got lots of room here. And
awesome. Yeah, awesome.
I mean,
Definitely.
Proud right now, but when everything kind of finally settles down, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that would be great. And thank you so much again, Leon. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I hope those cats will appreciate the food that you're about to give them.
Yeah, I'm about to give it to them. Okay, Nathan. So we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.